finishing part of a Masechta. I'm sure some of you guys finished the whole Masechta, at least the Girsa, or Bikis, the way you call it here. Hashem, we go from strength to strength. One of the things, guys, that I wanted to discuss today, actually, it's a very simple question. Many Mefarshim ask it. We're going to actually discuss it the way Rabbi Yehuda Zev Segal explains this part. You all know about these guys. Can I have your attention? Thank you. You see, actually, one of the things, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Gemara Masechta Yevamos says that Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students, 24,000 students. A big deficit. Yeshiva, how many students do you have in Valley Torah? That's it? Okay, that's a lot. Let's say we go Lahavdil in Santa Monica College, 7,000. I don't know how many you have. You don't have 24,000. Only UCLA have 24,000. I never took a survey. But you're talking about a huge yeshiva, 24,000 Talmidim. And then the Talmud says, the Gemara says, that in a very short while, between the time of Pesach and Shavuos, they all died with the pandemic. What was that? The Gemara says askara. It's like diphtheria, whatever that is. That the person chokes. And he can't really breathe. It's a very, very tough type of a death. Why did they deserve to have such a tough type of a death? You're talking about, Tanoim. People that, if they were alive, the whole Torah Shabbat, the whole Mishnah would come from them. The students of Rabbi Akiva, why did they die? So the Gemara says, because they didn't respect each other. Lo nagu kavod ze lazeh. Now it's very, very ironic, very funny. You see what it is? Rabbi Akiva's main teaching was v'ahavta l'riacha kamocha. Because Rabbi Akiva taught it, Rabbi Akiva used to say, ze klal gadol b'Torah. It's a great thing in the Torah. So if you expect from anyone to have honor for their classmates, should be the students of Rabbi Akiva. Because that was the main teaching of Rabbi Akiva, You got to love your fellow Jew, ze klal gadol b'Torah, but they didn't do it, whatever the reason was. But again, the question that we're going to discuss, so they were disrespectful. That's what they were. Let's say even if they said a little bit of Lashon Hara between themselves. Although the Gemara doesn't say that. They said they were not respectful. That doesn't mean I go talk behind your back. I don't respect you as much. But even if you're going to think they spoke Lashon Hara, which I doubt, is the punishment of disrespecting death penalty?
Is there death Lashon Hara?
Okay, but I don't know if they spoke Lashon Hara. Everybody else speaks Lashon Hara, they don't die. But it wasn't Lashon Hara, it was they didn't respect each other. For not respecting you, God gives death penalty. It doesn't make sense. Death penalty is only for severe averas. So why did they all deserve to die? That's a question that we're going to discuss. There's a way that other Mefarshim learn it. Actually there is one answer that they give is when God is in his anger, so even for small sins, you get serious punishments. So they want to say, during this time of Sfira was a time of punishment, and there was a big Ein Hara on them because there were 24,000 students. So time of judgment, Ein Hara brought death to them. That's the way some Mefarshim learn. We're going to actually learn something else. The way Rabbi Yehuda Zev Segal explains it. Any of you guys have heard of this great Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Yehuda Zev Segal? He was a famous Rosh Hashiva of Manchester. He was a very, very big guy. I never met him. I don't know who he was. But I know some of his students that they said when he davened the regular Ashrei for Mincha, he felt like he's davening Ashrei on Yom Kippur. That's what came. I'm a very, very great Talmid Chacham. Anyways, what he explains is, guys, we're going to go through a bit of Gemara. Hopefully, I'm going to finish it in 6-7 minutes, and then you have the pizza. He brings the Gemara Masechta Yuma. The Gemara in Yuma says there's actually 3 levels of kapara, 4 levels of kapara, meaning all the sins don't get the same type of forgiveness right away. The Gemara goes on to say, if somebody did not keep a positive mitzvah, he didn't put on tefillin one day, whatever it was, and then go to the sukkah, so as soon as he does tshuva, he repents, he's forgiven right away. He doesn't have to do anything else. He says, from now on, God, I'm going to put on tefillin every day. From now on, I'm going to put, study Torah, put an hour in the morning. He's forgiven right away. He doesn't even need Yom Kippur. How do we know that? Because there's a pasuk that says, Shuvu banim shovavim, which means you rebellious kids. God is talking to us. Repent, erpa mishuvatam. I will forgive you on rebellion. Basically, repent, you're forgiven. The Gemara goes on to say we have another pasuk that says Ki bayom hazeh yechaper. God forgives you on Yom Kippur. That means you need Yom Kippur to be forgiven. So which avera is it that you need Yom Kippur to be forgiven? So the Gemara says it has to be a harsher avera. What is that? If he transgresses a negative commandment. You see, when I don't keep a positive commandment, I was lazy. I didn't do a mitzvah. But I didn't actively go against God. I just sat down. I didn't do a mitzvah. So the forgiveness comes easier. If I want, let's say, the non-religious example. Somebody goes to a Jack in the Box and he doesn't just order a hamburger, he orders the cheeseburger. Oive. It's a real oive. So then this guy actively did something against God. So tshuva is not enough. And what else does he have to do? He needs Yom Kippur to forgive him. That's when the Torah says, what happens if he does a negative commandment or another commandment that the punishment is death penalty, whether in hands of God or by the court? An example, somebody eats on purpose chametz on Pesach, God forbid. Somebody on purpose works on Yom Kippur. Somebody on purpose doesn't keep Shabbos. So whether there's a death penalty. Then, now that the punishment is really so bad, the Gemara says it's not enough to do tshuva. Yom Kippur is not enough. He has to have yisurim. He has to have some suffering in his lifetime. So then, when he suffers, the suffering will forgive him. How do we know that? Because David HaMelech says in Tehillim, it says that Hashem is going to. He says, "I'm going to remember you." Pakati b'shevet. It says, "I'm going to use a stick." Upakadeti. I'm going to visit you. B'shevet with a stick. At pisham whatever deravera. What does a stick mean? Pain. You're going to go through a lot of payments. Pain. The thing is like this. The Gemara actually says that there are ways that you could avoid the yisurim. For example, if somebody gives charity to poor people, so then you're taking the pain away from them. So that takes away yisurim. If somebody's dead tired at night, I'm coming in, guys. Let's say if somebody actually, Rabbeinu Nissim brings it down. If somebody's dead tired at night and he forces himself to stay up, it's a lot of pain. So that takes the place of Yisurim. He doesn't have to go through pains because he gets pain himself. If somebody fasts, for example, doesn't have to be real fast. Instead of eating 9 o'clock in the morning, his breakfast is going to push it off an hour or two. So he's giving pain to himself.
Just give yourself any kind of pain and substitute for a different pain.
Well, again, it helps. I don't know if it takes food, it takes care, but definitely tzedakah because it takes away pain. Another thing that actually makes you not to have pain is keeping Shabbos according to halacha. So you don't have to go through the pain. All right? Anyway, so there's a way to do it. But the Gemara goes on to say, all these cases, we get the forgiveness in this world, in our life. What happens is somebody does a sin, and the sin is Chilul Hashem. It desecrates God's name, which means he does the sin publicly or encourages other people to do a sin. So whether it wasn't, if I let's say go in my basement, nobody sees me, I do something wrong in my house, nobody sees me. So I did an avera, but nobody learns from me. But if it's a Chilul Hashem, which actually encourages other people to do a sin, so then the Gemara says there is no forgiveness for him until after he dies. Tshuva is not enough, Yom Kippur is not enough, Yisurim is not enough. When he dies, all these three things will help together with the death. There's actually one exception. If he's going to turn around his life and he's going to do Kiddush Hashem, he's going to start teaching people to come to Judaism. You have nice muscles, buddy. It's awesome. God gave it to you to hug your parents and your future wife. Okay, now let's pay attention. Awesome. I like that. You see, my muscle is made from learning Torah. I hope so. I don't know. That's the way I say it. Not from potatoes. So anyways, going a little bit further, the only way that you could substitute the death is if you actually have a life of Kiddush Hashem. The way you act, people get encouraged to come to God. So now, what is another case of Chilul Hashem? Even if I don't encourage you to sin. The Chafetz Chaim brings it down about Lashon Hara, that if you have a rabbi, a leader of the community saying Lashon Hara, besides the Avir of Lashon Hara is a Chilul Hashem too. Because people don't expect a rabbi to speak Lashon Hara. The regular guy, okay, I don't learn from him, he doesn't know anything. He's ignorant. But you have a Chashuv Rosh Yeshiva, a Chashuv teacher, a Chashuv Magitzur to say Lashon Hara, so people say, hey, look, if he speaks Lashon Hara, so I could speak Lashon Hara too. Now let's switch back to Rabbi Akiva's students. If anybody else didn't respect to another person, okay, we understand he's ignorant. But who's not respecting whom? Students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva teaches them you have to love a fellow Jew just like yourself. And they don't respect each other. It's not just not respecting each other. It's a Chilul Hashem. It's desecrating God's name. Everybody else will learn from that. So here the Gemara says that what brings a full forgiveness if there is death after they die. So to a certain extent, I think somebody touched it. He said like Lashon Hara has death by hands of heaven. So over here wasn't Lashon Hara, it was a Chilul Hashem that was happening. That these students didn't respect each other, that's when the death penalty came. Now, what did I speak about it? I'm sure you guys respect each other, no question. And even if you don't, God forbid, we know in the state of Rabbi Akiva's students that, death penalty will come. But there's a very great lesson that we learn. Two lessons we can learn. Number one, I really don't care what we think about ourselves. But in the eyes of the non-religious people, we are the ones that carry the flag of the Torah. They look at you, I'm a rabbi. They look at you, your Valley Torah students, that you study at least half of the day with, Limud Kodesh, learning Torah. And I know, Bezaz Hashem, the principals here and the teachers, they actually encourage you to go to yeshiva for a year if you want to pursue professional life, to go to colleges. So I don't, it doesn't matter what I think about myself or what you think about yourself. In the eyes of people, you are the Talmidei Chachamim. You are the yeshiva boys. So if I act in a way in front of somebody who's not religious, he didn't have the merit yet to go to yeshiva. They said, this is what they teach to yeshiva kids. I'd rather say not religious. If this kid acts worse than a public school kid in honoring somebody else, I'd rather be in public school. So in the eyes of the non-religious, we are like the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, even if you don't feel like Talmid Rabbi Akiva. That's so we have to be very careful, especially when we're around them. We have to act our best because we're carrying God's name. Another thing is Jews compared to the rest of the world. The world is very critical about Jews. You could see it, right? A Palestinian kills a Palestinian. When there was a war, Iraqis killing each other. When ISIS was killing Hezbollah, Hezbollah killing ISIS. Right now you have Muslims killing Muslims. Nobody gives a darn in the world to do anything. It's okay. The blood is not worth anything. When a Jew does something wrong, then suddenly the whole world wakes up. They're very critical of us because God has higher standards of us, and that's the way the world looks at us too. In the eyes of the non-Jews, it doesn't matter if you're religious or not, you're Jewish. Right? The least observant Jew, it's equal in the eyes of a non-Jew like the biggest rabbi. So when it comes to the people of the world, the non-Jews, the Gentiles, the Goyim, we definitely have a responsibility that we're carrying the flag of God. We got to act the best. So when they see us, they say, I'm proud of this Jew. It's awesome. It's awesome. There was one time an article, could you believe that? I don't know if you guys remember, many years ago, there was the grocery shop called Miller's Market. The owner was a Persian Jew. He would go every day and take the bread and throw it to the birds, but it was closed on Shabbat. It wasn't open. So there was an article in one of the newspapers that he said the birds do not come on Shabbat to eat bread because they know the owner doesn't come. I was like a young rabbi that was 25, 26. I'm 57 now, thank God, hopefully we all live 120 years. But it was amazing. They going in the newspapers. They said this guy is closed on Shabbat, and even the birds know because he's not there to spread bread for them. They don't show up. Wasn't that a Kiddush Hashem? A secular Jew was closed on Shabbat. Was in the newspapers. That's exactly what you guys can do. When you see other non-religious people, our brothers and sisters, who didn't have the merit to study Torah yet, nice act. You smile at him. You show how much you love him. Sometimes you could see somebody in college. If you guys go to college, there's going to be plenty of non-religious people. You offer $1.25 or $1.50 because of bidenomics. Coke used to be 50 cents, $1. Now you have to pay $2. But you spend $2, you buy him a Coke. I mean a drinking Coke, not this Coke, that 7-Up, whatever it is. Honestly, you make a Kiddush Hashem. This guy went to Valley Torah. Look how kind he is. He cares about me. He knows I'm thirsty. Or let's say the way you act amongst Goyim, when you go to business or whatever you do, you're patient with them. You sanctify God's name in a place that there's no sanctity at all. In a place that you're just going doing business, just came to make another dollar.